injured as a result of other people's negligence for over 50 years here in South Florida. If you get injured as a result of somebody else's negligence, it can be a car accident, it can be a slip and fall, medical malpractice, negligent security. If somebody else's negligence caused an injury to either you or one of your loved ones, give us a call. Our phone number is on our page, our website is on our page, and our email addresses are on our page. Please give us a call for a free consultation. We'd love to help you. Let Zach and I protect your rights.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to the edition of FOF Live presented by Burger and Hicks. As always, check out Burger and Hicks on our Instagram, TikTok, website, and we'll have their phone number down below for you to be able to reach them. And as always, let's introduce the panel for this live stream. We have myself, the host, Daniel Rodriguez. We have Eli Sutton, Nate Carsberg, Kevin Barrad. We have a very special guest from FIU Broadcasting, one of the voices of the Panthers. You've seen him here before, Zach Lennon. Fellas, how are you guys feeling for this new live stream here tonight?
Connor Norby time. That's all I know.
Adam Aller time. It is their time. Yes, it is. And coming off one of the more interesting games of the entire season. And I don't think that's hyperbolic. So it's for whatever reason, this team always plays well on Sundays and in series finales in general. They save their best for last on this. So at least they have some momentum heading into the Norby era.
Yeah, and Kevin, talk to us what you saw from that series against the Mets here, losing 2-1. Tell us what you saw.
Yeah, two really bad first games. I don't think there's another way to put it. But yeah, tough series for the most part. Last game, probably one of the more fun games we've watched this season. I think that was Valente Bayos looked pretty good. Fauché looked good. You had Derek Hill making a huge play early on in the game for that double play, and Christian Pache making a nice play there at the end of that ninth. So yeah, overall, final good game for the Marlins. Max Meyer just struggles, man. I mean, we spoke about it on the Spaces last night. At this point, it's just one really good pitch, which is that slider. That fastball's really been hurting him. And aside from that, Rodri Munoz, I believe, gave up another home run. He did not look very good against the Mets, which that's usually the team he pitches the best against. So, yeah, losing 2 out of 3, tough. But, that last game certainly lifted some spirits for sure. And then I forgot to mention Jake Berger, I believe, hit a home run in that first game. Sorry. Yeah. So that's another positive there. Xavier Edwards had a couple hits as well. So he keeps riding up that batting average. So, yeah, all right series. Good individually. Obviously, the score doesn't show much more than tough losses on game 1 and 2.
Well, Zach, you were there for the finale. I think I'm fine. Yeah, Zach, you were there for the finale. So take us through that experience as well. Lined up pretty well for you.
It did. It picked a great game to go to. It was, I think, a firm game of the year candidate for the Marlins, and just the way that game unfolded right off the top with that double play in the first inning, Derek Hill making an unreal play, and just showing a lot of character down the stretch in that game, losing in the 7th inning, coming back and winning, and Fauché in that 9th inning. The Mets start that inning so well, and they tried to force a bunt with Jeff McNeil, and that ended up kind of halting a lot of momentum in a game that I think otherwise had a really strong chance to go in the other direction. But yeah, shout out to Derek Hill for making an unbelievable defensive play and then getting the game-winning hit in the 8th inning, and character win to close things out, salvage a game at Citi Field. Leave there with something. So
now I could hear you guys. All right, my bad.
Yeah, Sarah Langs said it's the first double play in the modern era to go 8-9-4-2 from the center fielder to the right fielder to the second baseman to the catcher, and that's what a national audience got to see. That crazy, even though that was the start of the game, the fact that it sticks out so much in a year where the Marlins have been so bad defensively. I I didn't position it that way to skip post game. I was tempted to say, you guys have sucked so much defensively. How did it feel to see something like that go for a change? But I'm sure he was thinking that on the inside because all 4 guys had to do something on that play in order to get it done. And it turned out to be pretty consequential because they only win by 1 run, and they were actually losing when Beozo got off the mound anyway. So everything added up right there. And this is the peak of spoiler season. The Mets are surprisingly right in the thick of that race. So to stun them in that finale could make a difference in terms of whether they make the playoffs or not. We should probably touch on Max a little bit more, as Kevin brought up. For you, Nate, we've now had like 5 starts of Max since rejoining the rotation, and really isn't getting better. Not a single game where he's totally gotten the doors blown off, but at the same time, it's a grind. A lot of long at bats, a few too many walks, and then way too many like hard hit balls where he just seems like when he misses his spot, especially with his fastball, it doesn't seem like hitters at this level are too good for him to get away with those mistakes.
It's pretty much the same issue it's been since he's been called back up, and it's been the big concern pretty much his entire career is that he needs that third pitch. Even when I think it was his start, not this one, but the one before this. Even when he threw that changeup, that's when he got hit around the most. It's really it's either right down the plate or it's a not competitive pitch, and hitters will continue to sit on the fastball and the slider. And then I mentioned a couple of streams ago that if you're a big league guy, your hitters are going to sit on that fastball or that slider. And even though his slider is elite, it's still not going to get by guys. So I'm trying to get more and more worried about Max. He hasn't really shown much improvement. His command's kind of been off. His blow up start, I would say he blew up against Cincinnati. That was when I think he threw his changeup and sinker like maybe 12 times combined, and that was really the peak of his 2 pitches. But we got to see something from him pretty soon, I'd say. I'm not ready to give up on him just yet, in terms of the bullpen, especially with the way the Marlins season is going right now. I'm going to give him a couple more chances for sure. But it's either he has to get that changeup competitive or build off the sinker, really show some significant improvement, because it's not looking pretty. But like I said, he's going to keep getting those chances in this Marlins rotation. So we'll have to just hope that he can mix it up a little bit more and hopefully find his command. Thanks, Navi.
I think we should just hop in right into the Connor Norby news, considering it is our news. Isaac Azoo, shout out to him being the first one on this one last night. When shortly after the game, we shouldn't overlook it. Actually, really quickly before getting into this, I'll go to Carver just to make people aware of what the Jumbo Shrimp did last night. That was their game of the year too, coming back from a 7-run deficit in the 8th and 9th innings to flip that entire game around. And Norby was a part of that, as was basically everybody in that lineup.
Yeah, that was a fun game. They came back from certain defeat. They made like literal team history. So it was pretty cool to see that home runs galore in that game. It was a cool game. But yeah, no, Isaac's report. And then I heard from people out of Jacksonville that like he was even still around the clubhouse after Isaac's report came out. So I think he learned of his call up fairly late. But yeah, he's there today, which is cool. I don't want to soapbox too long on this, Eli, but I do want to mention something really quickly. This is a credit to Isaac for getting the news. It was awesome. I'm proud of him for doing it. He deserves all the credit in the world for getting that news first. And if you're thinking about doing this, if you're thinking about reporting on baseball, if this is something that you want to do, if you want to make a career out of the more journalistic side of baseball, credit sources. Because I'm not going to mention names, but I can say that I know that it's frustrating and it frustrated me to see this, knowing Isaac as a guy that works his ass off to do what he does. He's there today. He's going to be here in a little bit. But before he gets here, I just want to say this. Credit people that you get news from. It makes a world of difference to them. So do that. It's important. There were people that did credit Isaac, which thank you to them. But everybody should have credited Isaac here. So this was a great report by Isaac. I'm proud of him for getting it. But with past that, with Norby coming up, I think he's ready. I think that it's good. I think that it's good timing. The Marlins have an opening for him, so why not? 24 years old, just turned 24 actually a little bit ago. I would say what has held him back, I mean, he flew through the minors for most of his career with the Orioles until he got to AAA. What has held him back is hit tool, because I don't think his bat speed is fantastic. What I would say, though, is that he makes good swing selections. He's patient. He knows how to hit. He goes gap to gap. He hits it pretty hard still, even though his bat speed is not the greatest. So I would say the crux is bat speed. But other than that, decent player, really good guy, mature hit tool. We labeled him as the most advanced offensive prospect in the Marlins system, and I still think that that's true. I still think he has room to grow. Just okay speed. Field is going to be a question mark. I don't know where he's going to stick. Probably going to be second base. I don't think he's really has the true talent to go to a more demanding defensive position. And then we're going to have to see how the hit tool develops with the Marlins. That's been a crux for the Marlins over the years, developing hit tool. And that's this guy's room for improvement is with hit tool. So if he can develop his hit tool into the 50 future value that a lot of sites and prospect rankings lists think that it could be at, this is a really damn good player. And he's going to get a great chance with the Marlins. So I'm happy to see this guy up. I want to see more out of the hit tool, though, to say that this guy is a for-sure starter in the major leagues, but I think that he definitely has a good footing on it. There's just a couple question marks, but overall good. I'm glad to see this guy up. He deserves it. There's room. Why not do it right now? I think it's good timing. Let's see what he does. This is going to be a fun call-up to watch.
Yeah, just to give context to this comment right here, it's referring to our previous stream, joined by Arm Layden of Just Baseball, and he has some concerns. A big picture, not a huge difference in evaluation, but he does have him ranked, whereas we have him number 2 in the organization. Arm had a number 14 lower down, maybe just like one tier below, where it's a little questionable about where he'll be an everyday player, depending on how you feel about the defense, depending on how you feel even about some of these offensive question marks that have popped up. The underlying numbers this year. So I do encourage people, though, to check out that previous stream if you missed it, because we went really deep on a lot of other prospects in this organization. Other than that, Norby called up. He is starting tonight, as we will get into. He's playing third base after being mainly a second baseman throughout his development. That's another interesting wrinkle to this, because he has not been shy about talking about his preference for being second base and his confidence that he'll be a good defensive second baseman for the Marlins right now. Otto Lopez continuing to be there in the opening they had at third base. Do we want to get into that opening, Kevin, that they had to make room for Norby? Emmanuel Rivera gets squeezed off. He'd been on this roster almost the entire year, acquired very early in April, just like a few days after the John Birdie got dealed away. And they gave him a long leash, and he just didn't hit quite as much as they anticipated.
Yeah, and then just really quickly with Norby, I mean, I know Aram had mentioned that it's going to be, potentially a platoon guy who's just going to face left-handed pitching. I mean, you look at the numbers this year, he's hitting both lefties and righties actually really well. I think an OPS of, OPS of 825 against the righty, and then 950 against the lefty. Obviously, the difference is there, but he's hitting righties really well. So, I see where Aram is coming from, but I definitely do disagree with the potential platoon. I think this is an everyday player for sure. But yeah, you mentioned Rivera. He was, I think, acquired from Arizona for cash considerations. He was DFA'd, and I think he was then acquired there. And it was right after they came back on the road against the Cardinals, and they had another trip in there too. So it wasn't right after the birdie for the one, but definitely it was a clear replacement there. And defensively, I mean, he was really good. There's no other way to put it. He made some good plays. He was a solid defender, but offensively just couldn't keep it up, couldn't get it going. And I think Eli put it out on Twitter that, he was going to come into potentially just hit against lefties, just didn't work out at all. I think a team would love to have someone like Rivera, I guess, defensively on the defensive aspect of things. Good third baseman. He provides a lot of value there, but unfortunately just couldn't get it going offensively. And I think now most of the guys from that opening day roster are honestly gone. I don't think there are many guys left aside from some relievers and so obviously guys like Jake Berger who were here from the start of the season. But yeah, this team looks completely different from what we saw, opening day.
Yeah, one reliever who actually started the year on the opening day roster and has been throughout. That's Andrew Nardi. Everybody else, even Declan Cronin, we still probably vividly remember Declan Cronin getting off to a great start, then getting sent down to AAA, coming up a couple weeks later. Between those little injuries and promotions and demotions, there's been so little continuity from start to finish this year.
Yeah, you mentioned Norby, Rivera. I think we have to mention the other player that the Marlins called up today, Adam Mahler, will be starting tonight. I know we have to at least mention him. We have to mention him at some point. Well, why not now or later? What's the scouting report on Adam Mahler? I don't know if we have any Adam Mahler enthusiasts or or anyone like that here on the panel to talk a little bit about him?
Of course, we have all the data.
Go for it, Eli.
Right here. So he was cut by by Cleveland. I keep getting reminded he was terrible with Oakland in the majors the past 2 years, but he was with the Guardians AAA affiliate to start this year, was not pitching very well. And in the past, in the big leagues, his struggle had been largely throwing strikes. And that has changed for the better over this past month or so since signing with the Marlins. It's only been those 25 innings in AAA, but it's a sub-3 ERA. It's a low threes FIP. And he's performing well. I mean, of all the guys they have at the next level down, you have to have a fifth starter of some kind eventually. And they've been going with a 4-man rotation ever since Kyle Tyler got DFA. That was a few weeks ago. And now they had to try somebody else. He is as decent a candidate as anybody they have at the AAA level at this moment, in terms of the ones that are fully developed for better or worse. So he's 29 years old, turns 30 right after the season. And as I said, his previous big league experience did not go well. He was a sub-replacement level pitcher, but he's doing well right now. He pitches heavily off his fastball, which has a little bit more velo than some of the guys who've been churning at the back end of this rotation. He averages 94. He gets up to 96 when he needs to. It's mainly that fastball and this slurvy breaking ball. I'll be curious to see what StatCast defines it as, but it's one of the few guys that I think it's that really weird hybrid between a slider and curve that does officially go in as a slurve, and he gets a big velo separation between it. He needs to command his stuff, as most guys do, in order to have success and work deep into games. So he gets his first shot today, and you imagine as long as he doesn't get totally embarrassed, that he'll make at least one more start after today, just to fill out this rotation down the stretch.
Yeah, and now with the Marlins with a 5-man rotation, maybe we'll see how that goes going towards more into the end of the season. I want to talk about one player who has not been as hot this entirety of the year. That's Max Meyer, someone who's had, I don't want to say a downfall, but just a downward trajectory so far this season. I want to hear from Nate about Max Meyer and if he can pick it up as we get towards the end of the year.
Unfortunately, Nate already gave his analysis on Max Meyer. So,
no! Right when I left, you're kidding. You're kidding.
Yeah. So you're gonna have to move on to another player in this case.
All right. Well, we go from him. I'm guessing you guys did Bayoso also.
Yeah. I think we did.
All right.
A little bit.
So we can again move on from that. I think I'm gonna leave one more person. You can talk about Eddie if you guys want to before we head into get into Isaac and everyone there. Again, I asked Nate. We'll ask Nate again. Talk to me about Eddie Cabrera, seeing from him and what he has to prove so far in 2024.
He continues to be the most infuriating pitcher to watch in the Marlins. He has these innings where he looks like the absolute stud prospect he was, destined to be, and then he sometimes looks like the Edward Cabrera that we unfortunately know at the big league level. I think Paul mentioned on the broadcast against the Phillies when he gets he wants a guy to start the inning, and he gets in a 1 or 2 ball count to start an inning, and he just absolutely blows up. That happened in Philly, and he ran through the first inning. He looked great. His changeup was very well commanded, so it was his fastball. And then next inning, watch the leadoff batter, gets down to the second batter, and then it all unravels for him. So it really is so unfortunate, especially with the start he had against the Padres. He absolutely dominated that lineup full of stars. And then he drops a dud in Philadelphia. Lewis put out a great piece on Cabrera after his start against the Phillies. And, he's going to continue to dazzle with his fastball and changeup and heavy off speed. But until he's consistent, we really can't get behind him too much, unfortunately. I'm rooting for the guy as hard as I can. I thought he could be the number 4 guy in this rotation to start the year, but it's the same problems. He really hasn't shown much improvement, unfortunately, since being called back up. It's always been the same issues with the command, with not really being able to go too far into games with the command. So, like I said, with Max, he's going to have the chances, but it's just like I said, it's infuriating to watch him pitch sometimes, unfortunately.
And with Edward, we've seen strokes of brilliance, and then another one, it's like, oh, maybe he should go into the bullpen. The other one, oh, he looks like the perfect starter. Carver. With Edward Cabrera, I don't want to ask you what his future role is, but with Edward, what is he showing this season? If he's showing that he should start, he's showing that maybe he needs a little more long relief type role as we head into the future for him?
No, I think that he's proven that he's a bullpen guy, and I think that I think we were talking about this last night actually on the Spaces, that he could actually carve out a pretty damn good role as like a mid to late inning reliever, maybe a 1 to 2 inning guy. I think he'd be good at that, because when he goes third time through the lineup, that's when he really starts to struggle. So I think that he is a perfect candidate to move to the bullpen rather quickly, if not maybe beginning of next year. I would say that he is a candidate to move. Health issues, his health has never really been on his side. He's had health issues, so that's not his fault. But when he is healthy and everybody thinks that he's healthy, like Nate just said, he has times where he looks really great. He has starts where he looks really good, and then it just falls off the rails inning to inning. And, if for a team that is hoping to compete, in years to come, that's not something that you can have as a guy that you can't really count on as a starter. But I think the Marlins could count on him as a reliever. So I think he'd be fine as a reliever. Let him live off the velocity. Let him live off his damn good stuff that he has in a limited showing each time out, and not have to have him go through the lineup multiple times. I think that would make sense for Edward Cabrera. Out of anybody that's in the Marlins rotation right now, and they were talking about Max too. Max is going to get a longer leash. We were talking about that last night as well. But with control where it is, minor league options where they are, where Edward I don't think has any, this is a guy that could go to the bullpen rather soon to make up for what he has not done as a starter.
And the issue with that too is, would you rather have a starter that walks 4 or 5 guys a game, or Edward comes out of the bullpen, say high leverage, maybe 7th or 8th inning, and he immediately puts on 2 guys? That's the issue with him, I think, is because his problem is he can't command the strike zone whatsoever. So you're really pick your poison really at that point. It's have a starter that has poor command, or a reliever that could give you a 1, 2, 3. He might strike out the side for all we know, but you have that the possibility of him potentially going off the rails. So it's just really, really tough for a guy like him.
Yeah, you see 5th percentile in walk rate this season. It was in the 1st percentile, which is about as bad as anybody last season. The year before, the 10th percentile. It's always been an issue, even when he's actually had some decent success going back a couple of years. To go on kind of Carver's point about one time through the lineup, this year in particular, we've seen this effect where he's been pretty dominant the first time through almost every time. And then that spike from a 157 batting average against to 294 the second time. And then the few times that he's actually gone 3 times through, getting hit really hard and losing even more control right there. So that's part of it as well. He will, though, continue to get opportunities, we think, down the stretch, just because of the lack of alternatives.
Yeah, and then the one thing to note is Nate does make a good point that he very well may blow up in an inning, but it's also just an inning. Usually Edward does come out of the gate pretty well in starts. We've seen it multiple times, but then there's a case, like last year against the Mets, he got off to a really bad start. That was early in the year, so yeah, that definitely. Obviously, adjustments need to make. We heard about how AJ Puck changes arm slots and this and that to make one transition to another. Maybe that could be the case with Edward. Maybe that helps him out. We'll have to see, but definitely there is definitely risk when it comes to moving Edward to the bullpen as well. But I think honestly, at the end of the day, it'll be a very, very good move for the Marlins.
Yeah. Well, now that we have Isaac in here, let's go ahead and do a little press box report. After that, we'll hit Flip Fish, and we'll get to the Diamondback series and talk about some returning Marlins coming back to LDP. As we have Isaac Azu. I think we should breaking the news. Connor Norby. All right, we're going to give you the credit. Many people might not want to, but we're going to give that to you.
Look, even LMS says congratulations.
Thank you, Chase. Thank you, guys. Much appreciated. I don't know if you can call this a press box report. I'm actually in the media workroom today. Just very toasty and very loud in that press box, unfortunately. But a lot of fun stuff going on today, so let's get into it.
All right, let's we talked about former players coming back. Let's start with the first one. Talk to us about AJ Puck.
Yeah, I got to speak to Puck. He looks very happy. I have to say, he looked ecstatic to be back home, or maybe he's just happy to be on a different team. I couldn't tell you, but he was very. I didn't get to see Josh Bell yet, unfortunately. We saw Floro. Floro saying hi to all his former teammates, saying hi to all the employees. He's an interesting guy, but Puck was very open to talk with everyone. And Skip went out and gave each of them a hug. It was a good time down there doing Arizona batting practice and Marlins batting practice too.
That's weird. Josh Bell is not in the lineup today. He plays. That's his thing. His thing is his availability.
Yeah.
That's a little surprising. So I guess we'll find out what's going on right there. Him not playing this particular game. Yeah, I could throw up the AJ Puck game logs. People may remember he was red hot before getting dealt, and since then it has been more of the same right here.
Yep.
Sub 1 ERA since that deal happened. Only one little slip up against the Pirates, and wow, yeah, you can kind of see it right there. He's been consistent. He's gotten some save opportunities for them, and he is under club control for 2 more years beyond this year. That was a big part of the value in terms of why they were able to get 2 guys in return in De Los Santos and in Pintar that they liked, because this guy was on a heater, and he has stayed on a heater even after the move.
He sure has. He's getting the high leverage innings for this Arizona Diamondbacks team. And this Diamondbacks team is having fun. They're playing well, and it's going to be a tough test for Miami.
Yeah, especially with Seawald out. I mean, Puck's been getting a lot of ninth, so
Yeah.
certainly. I mean, hey, and he's been really good. There's just another way to put it. I mean, he had once, I guess, small blow up against Pittsburgh there, but aside from that, he's back on another scoreless streak.
That was funny, Navi. Very funny. That made me giggle. Sorry. I had to give you credit for that one.
Oh my god.
But yeah, with Seawald, I don't know. I was surprised that he was as successful as he was. That's their closer. He's just not someone with like the crazy stuff, but we've seen pitchers like that before.
Yeah, and what did you hear from Skip?
Skip, a lot of it was on Connor Norby, and even Skip was adamant of the fact that how passionate Norby is about playing second base. The organization feels that he's ready. Skip was very confident in the bat. He's like, I have almost no doubt that the bat's going to play up here, and that this player has got high character, great makeup, and that he's going to do everything in his power to make sure he's not just an above average third baseman, but a well above average third baseman. So you can tell Skip is a big fan of the type of personality that this player is. He called it a FU type player, which is what he thinks this clubhouse needs. And yeah, most of it was about Connor Norby, and I think the whole organization is very excited.
Yeah, as we're there looking at Connor Norby, his new position as now at the Marlins. What else do you see in terms of the injury report? Some interesting things there, talking about Sandy, Reuters, and Braxton Garrett, looking to see how they return. How would you maybe fare about that injury report? Maybe what stood out to you as well?
Yeah, it's going to be another bullpen this week for Sandy. I spoke with him today also, and he's really itching to get back, but it's going to be mostly bullpens, maybe a live BP at some point in September. We'll wait and see about that one. But the main news in that injury report are that Weathers and Braxton are both going to be evaluated this week for a possible bullpen in the next few days. So I think that's something you're looking to. That's the next big step for both of them. Obviously, Luzardo is done for the year. 6-0, nothing there yet either. Simpson, he did have a rehab outing with Pensacola. It didn't really go well, but he is going to pitch for Jacksonville this week. But like I said, the main one is Weathers and Braxton. They're going to be throwing bullpens hopefully really soon, hopefully by the end of this week. And then the other one that was somewhat interesting is Dane Myers. I had to ask 3 times what this was. Progressing with the Alter G activities. Apparently that's some sort of bike to work on his lower half and full body workouts. No, I don't know. I didn't ask, but he's still a little bit of ways away. He's a hitter, so it shouldn't be that as long as a starting pitcher. But we shall see. And then Bender, he's just continuing activities in Jupiter, and another evaluation will be coming soon. But they're very vague with these injury reports. I do the best I can to explain them, but like I said, the main ones are Braxton and Weathers. Maybe they get 3 or 4 major league starts if everything goes smoothly, which is a big, big if.
Why can't they just say
Maybe not even 3 or 4,
bike?
maybe
Why
2. Maybe
why
one.
can't they just put bike activities instead of alt? All right.
Alter G probably paid them a good amount of money to use their name.
Oh my god! I guess the only other thing I wanted to ask you, and I guess some of you are gonna laugh because they always ask them about these players who get DFA'd. That's good.
Oh no! Shoot! You're right. We did not ask about Emmanuel. We did not ask about Emmanuel Rivera.
It's okay. There's not much to say about it.
No, and he did provide a service. He was here for a long time. He played 90 plus games with Miami, most of them at third base, playing most of the days here. And he did his service. He provided a very important service to this team, providing some sort of leadership, and played very, very good defense at the hot corner. So, got to give credit where credit is due. Just the bat was nowhere near major league caliber, unfortunately.
Yeah. So one quick note just a refresher that Nick Gordon was in a very similar situation just a week and a half or so ago. Got TFA, didn't get claimed, got assigned, got outrighted to AAA Jacksonville, and he accepted that assignment. And that's where he is. So now Emmanuel Rivera, almost the exact same spot in terms of service time and salary. He's almost certainly going to clear waivers due to his offensive struggles. I'll be curious to see whether he accepts his outright move, and also whether the Marlins actually want him to get AAA playing time. So there's still a couple days to see how that plays out, whether he ultimately gets released or whether he is sticking around his depth for the final month plus of the season at AAA. Wait to see, as David Sampson likes to say.
I would lean towards they'd release him just because I don't see much room for him at AAA these days. Yeah, well, I guess Norby up, maybe there is room, but I don't know. You're right. They may keep him as depth in case this Norby thing doesn't go the way they want it. There might be some value in keeping Emmanuel Rivera somewhere in the organization.
I mean, it's definitely interesting that they also kept around Nick Gordon. I know there's, it's pretty thin over there in the outfield, but it gives you chances to call up other guys from AA who do deserve a chance. So a little bit interesting, but I guess what Isaac says, you have injuries in the outfield, you could somehow bring back Nick Gordon, and same goes with Rivera. Yeah, so definitely keeping your options open with that. But yeah, and and obviously someone like Rivera and Nick Gordon aren't gonna not accept it because I believe they would have to forfeit their salary, Eli, or they would lose the remainder of their salary. So they're also they want to make some money, so they definitely have to accept that assignment.
Yes, that is the case with these two players.
All right. If no one else has anything I want to add or ask, I think it's a great time to go out to Flip Fish, and then we'll head back out and talk a little more about this upcoming series and a key injury for the backs this series as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this Flip Fish, as suggested by Kevin. So Kevin not allowed to answer right here. Slightly harder than average. It is mainly a relief pitcher that played for both the D-backs and the Marlins at some point during his career. As you see, very recent time in the big leagues. Not sure if he is officially retired, but it does seem like Major League Baseball is done with him, given the last time that we saw him in the big leagues. Not super duper effective. Still only 32 years old right here for our Flip Fish player. Career ERA right around 4, as you can see, and close to a decade in the big leagues at some point. Take a closer look. On the other side of the break, we'll do the reveal, and we'll get to the rest of the show here on FOF Live.
We have been representing people injured as a result of other people's negligence for over 50 years here in South Florida. If you get injured as a result of somebody else's negligence, it can be a car accident, it can be a slip and fall, medical malpractice, negligent security. If somebody else's negligence caused an injury to either you or one of your loved ones, give us a call. Our phone number is on our page, our website is on our page, and our email addresses are on our page. Please give us a call for a free consultation. We'd love to help you. Let Zach and I protect your rights.
Do any of the non-Kevins have an idea of who this is?
I think I have an idea. If it's Kevin,
I do know who it is. Kevin had a great interview with this player in Jacksonville during his trip there.
Oh, I know who it is then. Yeah, I know who it is. It must be Archie. Yes, that's who it is. That's what, yeah.
He only pitched 4 games with the Marlins.
Yeah.
What 4 games it was?
I know he pitched against Seattle once in a blowout or something. I remember that one.
Bradley's final numbers with Miami, very unimpressive. 11.05 earned run average, 4 games pitched, 7 innings.
7 innings.
13 hits allowed in those 7 innings, 9 earned runs in those 7 innings, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts, 7-3 strikeout to walk ratio. That's good.
He was good at Jacksonville, if I recall. He started a lot of games. He was very excited to be back in baseball.
Yeah. With AAA Jacksonville, he had a 4.80 earned run average. So
not much better. Never mind then.
A little bit better.
Yeah, well, just to refresh people, he was a big-time starting pitching prospect with the D-backs a decade ago. He was a consensus, not only top 100, he was a consensus top 35 guy in the game at 2012, 2013. And the velo was very good early in his career when he made that transition to a reliever. When the Marlins got their hands on him this past season, that mainly went away, and he had to completely change who he was as a pitcher. it seems like just following him on Instagram that he's still finding a lot of fulfillments in his life doing non-professional baseball playing things. But I think this is the end of the road for this chapter of his career. Wishing Archie Bradley the best of luck in whatever he's doing.
Never forget that bases clearing triple he had in the wild card game in 2017.
Yeah.
Stud.
Just to like, not that it matters, but just to briefly correct, Isaac was reading his numbers along with Jupiter, which I guess he was rehabbing there, but he had a 5.47 ERA with the jumbo shrimp. Just not a good overall tenure with the Marlins. But yeah, we wish him the best.
He was a great interview though. That's about it.
Cool guy.
Not bad. 16 mil in his career, 20th in MVP voting 1 year.
Wow. All right.
So that's going to do it. Go follow Isaac. You know he'll have some great coverage. See if maybe Josh Bell stops by. See what happens there. And as always, make sure to follow him on X.
Yes. Remember, it's a long series. Kevin and I will be there pregame tomorrow. We'll try and get some former fish on the other side.
Hopefully all three. We'll see. And then, yes, there's a couple games left. So lots of coverage coming your way. Tonight, it'll just be a lot of Connor Norby coverage tonight. Thank you for having me, guys. LMF, you can't even get 5 cents for that card, dude. All right, like, come on. I know I hope it's a jet.
I think so.
All right, now let's start off talking about this series. Mentioned before, key injury for the Diamondbacks. We'll go a little bit into that when we see the lineup. But I want to hear from Zach. We have yet to hear from Zach so far. Talk to us what you're expecting from this series against defending NL champs.
Well, the Marlins did just play a little bit of spoiler with that Sunday win against the Mets and kind of, beating a team that was only a game out of a playoff spot. So I think that's definitely one of the interesting things to keep in mind going into a lot of these series against these teams. And the Diamondbacks obviously have a lot more of a cushion in terms of their playoff positioning right now as the NL wildcard one. But that's what a lot of these series is an opportunity for the Marlins to play spoiler. And they showed a lot of character in the 7th and 8th and 9th inning of that win on Sunday. And so this will just be a really interesting series against a Diamondbacks team that needed a lot of clutch late heroics against the Tampa Bay Rays in their last series. And I'm also very excited to see the return of Adrian Del Castillo, who was just recently called up for Arizona, Miami Hurricane, Gulliver Prep Raider, who's actually a classmate of mine at Gulliver Prep back in the day. But he's been swinging a hot bat, game-tying 3-run home run the other day for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And obviously there are other storylines kind of right themselves with AJ Puck and Josh Bell, who I think we all expected to see, and we're surprised that he won't be in the lineup tonight. But those are certainly some storylines for a team that is obviously not playing their best baseball right now, but is a good team and in the thick of the wild card race. And they really, really need these games with just a 2.5 game cushion.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. You mentioned with those teams and Adrian Del Castillo. We'll get a little bit more onto him, maybe a little spoiler for my MVP for this series. But we got from that. Let's talk a little bit about the pitching because the Arizona Diamondbacks bring a lot of interesting pitching this series. You have Brandon Pfaadt, who I believe has an under 4 ERA, Eduardo Rodriguez, who I believe, when he's on it, he's one of the best in baseball, but it just seems like he hasn't really found it in terms of injuries coming back from that. Eli, when you're looking at this Arizona Diamondback pitching rotation, do you believe it's maybe higher quality in Major League Baseball, or it's maybe a lot of guys who should be doing better than what they currently are doing?
It would be better if those. I think you just put it very well right there. It had the potential to be one of the best in baseball just by back of the baseball card sort of stuff between Rodriguez and Jordan Montgomery, of course, Zach Gallen. And Jordan Montgomery has been awful this year. I think I've lost quite a bit of money, like trying to bet on him to turn things around, and it just has not happened. He's been one of the worst starters in baseball among guys that have actually been in the rotation for most of the year. That was a big shock to people when they spent the money on Montgomery last moment, even on a short-term deal to fill out their rotation. They made that bigger investment in Rodriguez, and he had just been sidelined until about the All-Star break. due to injury, even a little bit after that. Also with Gallen, even though we're not going to see him in this series, it should be noted that he's probably on a per inning basis, he's less effective this year than he ever has been in the big leagues during his career. For a guy that just last year, at times, and the year before, he looked like he was really solidifying himself as a true ace in the majors. So they have had a lot of the success despite a shaky, somewhat rotation. In fact, you could argue their most valuable starting pitcher has been the guy that we see tonight, in Brandon Pfaadt. I honestly wasn't super aware of how good he had been until digging in earlier today. And I think even the surface level stats understated. It's a ERA just under 4. It's a FIP of 3.5. He doesn't walk anybody. He walks barely one guy per outing this season, and he averages like 6 innings a start. He's going to finish really high up there in terms of workload across Major League Baseball this year for a guy that is only in his sophomore season in the big leagues. This will be a very interesting one. I'm not even super sure if the Marlins have faced Pfaadt before. I would assume so, just because he's
I think in that series against Arizona, I think maybe he pitched one of those games.
Yeah,
It was
maybe. Sure.
not this season. Maybe at some point last year. Well, yeah, last year. That's right. Last year, his second career start came against the Marlins. They scored 6 runs on 7 hits in just 5 innings. He got roughed up there. He fell under the radar just because of how bad he was at the very beginning of his big league career last season. And if you go back to the last couple months, the last really 365 days, he's been a well above average starter right here. Just going back to that game from last year, Jorge Soler took him deep twice. Slightly different Marlins lineup that he's facing tonight compared to a year ago, obviously. And that I'm sure that will benefit him moving forward right here. They certainly have the advantage tonight. And we'll see. Tomorrow is going to be a total wild card because you don't know what you're getting from Eddie. And I don't have a great read on who Wednesday will be. It definitely won't be Gallen. He's not scheduled to pitch. We'll have to find out as it gets a little closer who that series finale starter will be.
And really quickly with Rodriguez, this is a guy who hasn't faced the Marlins since, I think, let me make sure I'm reading this right, since 2015. So it's been a very long time since he's faced the Marlins. He doesn't have much experience against the other guys either. I mean, he's only faced Berger, Derek Hill, Hensley, and Brujan. So obviously it's against the lefties. So the Marlins are already at a disadvantage there. But it's definitely going to be an interesting case tomorrow with how they'll fare against Rodriguez, who is making his 3rd start of the season after that injury he went through. And really quickly, that Wednesday starter, Fangraphs at the moment has it as Jordan Montgomery for that Wednesday game. So we'll see.
Don't forget, Errol Kelly, also coming back from the IL, could potentially be him. I know the last time he pitched. But let's go ahead and look at these lineups. I know I mentioned before a very integral injury for the Diamondbacks, and that is Ketel Marte going on the IL. Easily their best player, if not, could be one of the front runners for NL MVP, which is how well he's been performing. So it should be very interesting to see the Marlins could take advantage of that. Nate, with Arizona, talk to us a little bit about them offensively. I guess, with Marte going down for the next 10 days on the IL, they're going to need someone in the middle of that order, someone that they can rely on. Corbin Carroll has not had those seasons. Adrian Del Castillo is still very new, very raw, and in that bottom half is very suspect. Well, we see offensively for the Diamondbacks. How can they capitalize on losing their best player?
Yeah, you hit on it. Ketel Marte is probably, if not this year, then 2019. But he's had a stellar year this season. OPS in 930. He's been he was the rock of their lineup last year in the World Series run, and he's been even better this season. So they're definitely going to miss him. But like you said, they do have Corbin Carroll at the top. Not had, the sophomore season that he or anyone else was honestly anticipating. He looked a little bit better, I think, maybe a month ago, but it's still kind of been, middle of the road to below average for Corbin. But you do have to look out for that speed. If that guy gets on base, he's likely taking second. So also Jock Peterson, the ageless wonder that he is, he's mashing this season. You see all the red on his profile. That guy's a stud. He's still you lose to Ketel Marte, but you still have Jock Peterson in the middle of that lineup. And, of course, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., who was more pop. And you didn't mention Pavin Smith. I believe it was in 2022 when Pavin Smith, I think in the 9th inning, hit a go-ahead homer against the Marlins. That was brutal. And I do remember that very vividly. So Pavin Smith, who I believe went to Palm Beach Gardens High School up in the 5-20s, making a return home. And Eugenio Suarez also brings a lot of pop. That guy is, I think he's, I didn't think he hit 30 homers last year, but he does have a lot of pop in that bat. So someone to look out for at the bottom. Not worried too much about Perdomo or Kevin Newman, but if you get down there, don't make a mistake to either Del Castillo or Suarez. That's for sure.
I think Peterson is a great topic. I mean, career year at age 32. Like me being age 36, like it just gives me hope that like older guys can actually succeed in something that they've done for their whole life. So it's clearly great to see that Jock Peterson is doing this. I don't even know like what to point to. Maybe the fact that he's gotten to DH more than play the field, I guess maybe could be a factor. But man, this is like clear career numbers for this guy at age 32, which you don't see that a lot. So that's great. And that's awesome for him.
Yeah, well, part of it also is platooning and that he barely ever faces a lefty. The Marlins are giving him a gift in this series where it's Aller tonight, then Eddie, then Rodri. So Jack will be in the lineup all three of those games. And Pavin Smith, maybe they brought him up. Well, he was the corresponding move, but maybe just lined up well because of that particular moment that he had against the Marlins not that long ago. And that usually that is Josh Bell's spot. And of course, when Christian Walker is healthy, that's Christian Walker's spot. But they acquired Bell to fill the gap for Walker. And now, at least for this one night, Pavin Smith, I would guess that we see Josh Bell the next couple of days, unless there's some sort of injury concern going on there. If not, the rest of this group should look pretty similar the next couple of games. I did want to touch on Corbin Carroll right there. He did get off to his first half of the season was so bad, about as disappointing as anybody's. And our buddy Aram did kind of a deep video breakdown about what was wrong with him mechanically. Points out last month or so, less pop-ups, a lot more fly balls, a lot more pulling the ball, better discipline. It looks like he is back to being an elite guy. He had a great series this weekend, even though they got swept by Tampa Bay right there. There's a reason why he's still batting at the top of their lineup. He's also a guy that he gets platooned quite a bit, or at least drops down a lot in the order when they face lefties. So again, just like with Jack Peterson, he is set up for success, you would think, in this series going against a trio of righties.
And it's worth noting, Josh Bell, since going to the Diamondbacks, has been raking, if I recall. I mean, the guy got off to that hot streak towards the end with the Marlins, had that, I believe, 4 home runs, back, one in each game. And then with Diamondbacks, he has an OPS over 800. So he's definitely looked pretty good with Arizona. Maybe that translates into this series if he does play those next 2 games. And it's definitely nice. He was a good guy in the clubhouse, and it's nice to see him again, in Miami.
And I just double checked Eugenio Suarez's numbers. He only had 22 last year. He had 30 plus the season before. But funny, 2019, back in the notorious Juice Ball era, that guy hit 49 homers as a member of the Reds. I do not recall that. So even though the balls aren't as juiced anymore, as people like to say, still I wouldn't. If I'm Adam Waller, I'm not missing anywhere at the top of the zone to Mr. Suarez.
I think he was a part of that Novelli Marte trade. I believe that, and so very interesting. I want to hear from Zach really quickly before we head to the Marlins on Adrian Del Castillo. Just how great he's been so far since being called up. You mentioned you were with him in the class, and for a young guy in Miami, I can imagine he's going to have up towards almost over 100 people there at the ballpark today. Hometown for him. What can you expect from Adrian? How have you seen them so far since being called up? I know the catcher position is really used up for Gabriel Moreno, but as of right now, Adrian Castillo is the healthy batter, is playing lights out. What do you see more from Del Castillo? What can we expect from him on his return home?
He started MLB tenure out with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and y'all hear me? I'm having some connection issues. Yeah, you got me.
Yep.
All right. Just the way that he's been hitting, I think he got a lot of eyeballs when his first career home run at the big league level was a walk-off home run, and the 3-run home run that he hit to tie the game in the 9th 2 days ago against the Tampa Bay Rays. But this is someone that just tore through AAA with the Reno Aces and seemed to be a big league caliber prospect from his freshman season at the University of Miami, which was back in 2020. And he's been on a roll ever, and I think is definitely someone that has a future somewhere just simply because of his bat. You mentioned that there are a lot of complications with the their catching situation. And so that'll be interesting to watch. But offensive that out, but his bat is too good to keep him at the AAA level. And whichever metrics, stats you look at in terms of catchers in AAA this year, he was close power-wise, average-wise, contact-wise, in just about all those departments. I think he hit, I don't know if it was 24 home runs at the AAA level coming into his time when he got called up, but it was just something that I think was more so a matter of when and not if, and just a matter of time for him to get his opportunity. And he fully seized it. His 2 home runs have been in extremely clutch situations, and he's definitely a part of the future of that team. And one of the more exciting for a team that is in to make, but hey, we also got this guy who's as well.
Yeah, very interesting with him. I know we'll get more from Del Castillo, though I'm pretty sure someone will have an article story in terms of him coming home and what tells from him, and maybe a little interview, who knows, as well. But let's look at the Marlins side and what to expect from them. Of course, Berger, Jesus Sanchez, Connor Norby, right? Almost a smackdown in the middle of that lineup. I want to hear from Nate. Talk to us about the new faces, you could say, with Norby, with Stowers, with those 2 guys. What could they may entail in this lineup? The Marlins in due time now to be able to pick it up with some fresh faces in this lineup.
Yeah, well, Isaac touched on that. Skip said that he's very confident in Norby's hit tool that it's going to translate to the big league level. I'm with Skip on that. I think Norby's a very polished hitter. As he just has to limit down the strikeouts a little bit more. I think he was a 19-6 strikeout to walk ratio in Jacksonville, so want to see him cut down on those strikeout numbers, maybe walk a little bit more. So I think he'd have a pretty big first series. Get Marlins fans excited. I like that Skip mentioned that he is kind of an FU guy. I watched his interview back with Kyle and the Marlins radio guys. He kind of has a little chip on his shoulder, which I like, and I think that is definitely what the Marlins do need. For Stowers, unfortunately, it's so much of the same. I still don't want to panic on him, but we have to see someone from eventually. I'm not going to give up on him just yet, of course, but still too many strikeouts. So I think he's still somehow trying to do too much, and he's not really walking whatsoever. He kind of looks still lost to the plate. So that's unfortunate to see. But I will touch on Derek Hill, who had he had a great game yesterday. Of course, that great catch. I think around 270 average since being with the Marlins, but he's come through in a lot of big moments. He's looked pretty good in center field. So he's already up to 6 in the order, or 5 or 6. I can't count. It's up to 5 or 6 in the order. So he's already in the middle of this Marlins lineup. So I hope he continues to do well. He's looked pretty good. So but that top 4, especially between Xavier, Berger, Bride, and Sanchez, have been looking pretty good the past couple of weeks. Xavier hopefully limits the base running mistakes this series, but not too worried about him. Keeps putting the ball in play, stealing badge. So I'm decently confident in this lineup to get a job done today.
Yeah. I want to hear from you, Eli. Just mentioned something very interesting. Edwards, Berger, Bride, Sanchez. One of these things are not like the other. One of them is Jonah Bride. In terms of having the heart of a lineup and guys who are just going off. If I mentioned those 4 players, maybe 9 times out of 10 people would say Jonah Bride, the odd man out. But in this case, he's not. In this case, he's been tearing up the baseball. What is it with Jonah Bride that he's just been turning around professionally and now hitting third, which seems like it'll be for the rest of the year?
It's a great question. I think he's exceeded everybody's expectations with what he's done this season with his consistency right here, his unique style as well. And he's been in that lineup basically every single day since the deadline. I was not sure they were going to lean that heavily into it. I continue to see a lot of sentiments about when Troy Johnson's going to get his chance and whether it's too soon for Davidson De Los Santos and if he's ready. And they're being blocked by Jonah Bride. Like, I can't really – there's not much point to me to have those conversations just because I think the realistic best-case scenario the rest of the year is probably not as good as Jonah Bride. He's getting – the consistency really is pretty amazing. The plate discipline shows up quite a bit. And the raw tools are very limited. And even defensively at first base, it has not been pretty. There have been some, I would say, pickable balls at first base that get through him right there. I think anywhere you put him on the infield is a bit of a minus, but at least he has the versatility in emergencies to play first or third, even second base if you absolutely need to. I think he was there at one point earlier in the year during one of his previous call-ups. I just think it's a great reminder about why the Marlins have been absolutely dominating the waiver wire over these past few weeks, taking all these guys. Most of them do not work out. Most of them are on the waiver wire for a reason. He was a glorified waiver claim. It was a trade for cash considerations after he got DFA'd by the Oakland A's in the offseason.
Groshans. It was
Yeah.
for Groshans.
Oh, yeah. Was it? It was Was it straight up? I don't think so. I think he was acquired and they DFA'd Groshans as the course.
That's what it was. Yeah, gotcha. All
For him. Yeah. So, but they were in the same boat. I mean, Groshans was a guy that was an afterthought when he got cut. We were saying they weren't going to miss him. And this is just a reminder that you take a lot of flyers, especially in a season when you're not competitive, because if you're a good front office, then 1 out of every 4 or 5 or 6 of those turns into somebody that has a role in your future. Not necessarily an opening day role or an active roster role, but certainly he's going to be worth a 40-man spot heading into the offseason, heading into 2025, and he'll be competing for a job against some of these other prospects that we're really excited about. He has a decent floor as a player just because of his approach at the plate, and there is enough slug in there when he's able to pull the ball. I don't think there's going to be many home runs to dead center field or the opposite field. When things go right, he is a floor raiser. He is a perfectly fine number 7 hitter in your lineup. The fact that he's hitting number 3 in the lineup, I think everybody agrees that he's miscast as the number 3 hitter of a major league lineup on a daily basis. In this moment, I think it is earned among the guys that are on this roster. He's done a really good job, and you just have to be really impressed right here. It's a tiny win for this front office in order to land somebody like Bride.
Yeah, and then one thing to note really quick is, I mean, we're finally seeing continuity at that top of the order, even though Jordan Bride may not be your typical number 3 hitter. It's been Edwards, Berger, Bride, Sanchi for what feels like a pretty long time now, and even Derek Hill that 5 spot. So I know there's not many options on this lineup to change it up, but I mean it does feel a little bit better to finally have that continuity, which honestly I don't think we've seen for a very long time. Even after that Luis Ariz trade, it was obviously Jazz at the top, but after that, really there wasn't much. It was a lot of mix and matching, and it finally feels like they found a good lineup, or not a good, but that lineup that will for sure give them the best chance to win. And it certainly has, for the most part, especially at that top of the order, those first 4, even 5 hitters.
Yeah.
The only other thing to bring up, and I agree that Bride has been good, especially this month. The only other thing to bring up, because Eli brings up De Los Santos, the Marlins, in terms of my favorite topic, the Rule 5 draft, the Marlins do have to call up Davis and De Los Santos, not call him up. They do have to add him to the 40-man roster before the winter meetings or expose him to the Rule 5, which the Marlins will not be doing that. So at some point, he's going to be added to the 40-man roster. So why not play him? Why not call him up in September and let him play as part of September call-ups? So I really think De Los Santos will be here in September. That's a guess, nothing official. I think that he'll be part of September call-ups. They have to add him anyways. Let him play. The guy has a 970 OPS in AAA. Let him play. He's probably going to be part of September call-ups, and I think that's maybe where you'll see Jonah Bride's playing time decrease. But for right now, he's doing well.
Yeah, I think we're all done with that. That is a perfect time to head into predictions. But before that, I think we do have a special video with a very, very special guest.
I wish we did. I didn't get sent a video from Isaac.
Oh my God.
It's laying on. I hope it's not laying on his phone and just going to waste right here. We'll try to get it into the
Get
tweet
that on Twitter
out after the show about it. He didn't send it in.
One on Panthers short for him.
Yeah. Let's head into our own prediction time then.
This is prediction time.
I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I'm really good at this.
Yeah. So here
we can see who is really good at this.
Yeah, Daniel again pulls ahead. It's been tight near the top of that leaderboard for really throughout the whole year, especially over the last few weeks. But in this most recent series, just barely pulled ahead. I want to give some pat on the back to myself for going off the grid with my Calvin Fauché Series MVP prediction. And that catch in the 9th inning, Francisco Lindor came that close, hitting a walk-off, whether it was a home run or a double in the bottom of the 9th, and Christian Pache is just able to get there in time. And if it lands, then Lindor wins MVP. A whole lot of other people get points instead of me. But so that helps me just a little bit hanging out there in tie for 10th place, all alone in 10th place right there. Thanks to our super subs for playing along all season long, our stream guests as well get input here, and there are staffers involved. So there are only 12 series predictions set to go, 40 down, 12 to go right here. Yeah, without further ado, I will cue up the music and wherever we want to go with this, Daniel.
All right. As always, leading us off, Mr. Kevin.
I'm going to go with the Diamondbacks taking 2 out of 3. And my series MVP is going to be Adrian Del Castillo. I actually feel pretty good. He's back at home. Why not give the young, hot rookie that's been hitting it very well a shot?
All right. Mr. Carver.
I will go with Diamondbacks 2 out of 3. I'm always big on pitching, and Aller tonight. Who knows what you're going to get? And then you have Munoz and Cabrera, which again, who knows what you're going to get? So I will say Diamondbacks 2 out of 3, and against 3 righties, as Eli alluded to, I'll go Jock Peterson.
All right. Let's hear from Zach. All right. We'll hear from Zach later and get his prediction. Maybe you can send us a video. Nate.
Carver took the words right out of my mouth. I'm going to go with
Diamondbacks 2 out of 3. I'm going to go.
Oh.
992.
Let the D-backs take. All right, go ahead, Zach.
Are we good? What did you say, Zach?
Just give it a couple more seconds for him to unfreeze.
It's all right.
Wait in anticipation.
I'll give it. All right. Let's go to Nate real quick.
All right, I got the D-backs 3. Carver took the words right out of my mouth. Jock Peterson,
right.
18 to 19 homers he's hit this year. I bet against righties.
Hopefully you guys hear me.
Munoz. Go Zach.
Diamondbacks.
I think he wants to pick the Diamondbacks 2 out of 3. Oh.
Just tell us in the chat.
We'll go Eli.
I have the Diamondbacks winning 2 out of 3. Corbin Carroll series MVP. The switch has flipped. Dynamic leadoff man once again. So the D-backs to victory.
I'll end it off. One of the most chaotic series predictions we've had in a very long time. I'm going to go Arizona takes 2 out of 3. I'm going to differentiate from everyone. I wanted Adrian Del Castillo, but I love those points even more. I'm going to go with Lourdes Gurriel. Interesting pick there. See what happens. But that's going to do it for prediction time.
Zach in the chat, Jamie. Zach in the chat has Diamondbacks 2 out of 3, Corbin Carroll MVP.
Now the Wi-Fi looks fine. All right, whatever.
You never know what you're gonna get in FOF live.
Your Wi-Fi is telling you to pick the Marlins, Zach. I think that's what it is. It has to be what it is.
Jonah Bride's coming for Zach. That's gonna do it for us here. For myself, Daniel, Kevin, Eli, Nate, Alex, Zach, Isaac. We'll have Zach record his own video, maybe send it to Eli, so we can actually get a real prediction video from you. But that's going to do it for us. Again, FOF Live presented by Burger and Hicks. Go Fish.
Amazing. Let's go.